Today we're in our new close reader, Characters Facing Challenges. And we are going to be reading our shared reads 1 and 2, Milo and the Dragon, and Tales Around the World. And the strategy that we're going to be using today for both of these texts is visualizing. And visualizing is one of my most favorite strategies when I'm reading, because it really helps me to picture and understand and experience what's happening in the story. So when we're visualizing, you might think visualize and think about seeing, right? Because a visual is something that you can see. But when we're visualizing as we read, we really can use all of our senses, right? So not just seeing, but thinking about what it would sound like, or what you would feel like, or what you might smell or even taste, okay? So all of those can be included as we're visualizing when we read. And the cool thing about visualizing too is that you probably do it without even thinking about it, but I want to draw your attention to it so that you can do this even more and help you to understand or comprehend our text a little bit better. Your visualizing should be changing as you read. So you should be seeing a picture in your head, and it's like a moving movie happening in your head as it's going. And so that's what I'd like for you to practice doing today as you listen to Milo and the Dragon. So first, I'm just going to take a quick look at my pictures for Milo and the Dragon. And I see a little boy, and he looks like he's reading a book. And he looks like he's reading a book to a dragon. So I'm also thinking about my asking questions strategy, because I'm wondering why he's reading a book to a dragon, because I don't know a lot of dragons who like to be read to. So I'm curious about why that's happening or how that's happening. All right, so we are going to go ahead and get started. You will need your close reader and a pencil as well. Milo and the Dragon. Once there was a boy named Milo who had great strength. Because of this, the dragons who roamed the trails challenged him. But Milo didn't like to fight. What he liked to do was read. So here, this word roamed, I want you to underline that. First of all, because we've got that OA vowel team that's going to say O, right? But also because roamed gives us a pretty good visual of what they looked like as they're walking around the woods, right? When you're roaming, that's much different than just walking or running or looking around. So picture those dragons in your head roaming. And I'm also picturing Milo reading, much like the illustration shows, because Milo likes to read, not fight. One day, as he sat reading, a dragon showed up. So in your visualization, you should be picturing that dragon coming up to Milo as he's reading. Would you like me to read you this story about dragons? Asked Milo boldly. The curious dragon began to listen. Soon, more dragons tiptoed over, and from that moment on, Milo never had to fight again. All right, so we've got Milo here. The setting is the trails and woods. Looks like maybe there's a castle in the background here. And his problem is the dragons all want to fight him because he's super strong, but Milo doesn't want to fight. He likes to read. So he ends up asking the dragon, would you like me to read this story to you? And then it says the curious dragon began to listen. Soon more dragons tiptoed over. So that gives me a visualization. I can almost see the dragons very lightly walking up, right, as to not disturb the reading. But also I can think about what that would sound like, because, you know, in the movies, if you see a dragon walking, they're probably kind of lumbering or walking loudly, right, as they get across the land. But in this case, they're tiptoeing over and listening to Milo as he's reading. So I want you to think, and you're going to respond in schoolwork, but I want you to think about what you visualized, and then draw me a quick sketch of a scene that you visualized in your head from Milo and the Dragon. We're going to use that same strategy for this text, but this text is actually an informational text, and In a story, it might be easier to have moving pictures than in an informational text, but we can still visualize what's happening in our heads to help us to make sense of the words. So this one's called Tales Around the World. If you read tales from around the world, you will find they have much in common. There are over 500 versions of the Cinderella story alone. Can you believe that? 500 versions. I'm sure you've heard a version or two, especially the Disney version of Cinderella, but in the world there are 500 of those. Will you underline that for me? That's a key detail there. Why do some tales appear in so many different cultures? One reason is that the stories are all about experiences all people share. That sounds important. One reason is that stories are about experiences that all people share. Everyone faces challenges in life, and characters in tales do too. We like to read how they overcome the challenges. The lessons in these old tales are valuable to people even today. So people want to connect to something, right? They want to connect to the text, and they face challenges as well. And so they want to, understand how a character might overcome that, and how then they could apply that to their own lives, right? And so if we are thinking about visualizing for this, we could think about with these 500 versions, right? Could you visualize a Cinderella story that maybe has a different setting? Or we could visualize a story of Cinderella where the main character is a boy instead, right? Or we could retell a story with characters who don't normally talk as well. Okay, but the reason that we're going to be reading all these texts about characters facing challenges is because we were going to face challenges too, and we might learn some lessons from these, right? We might learn how to overcome them, much like our characters do as well. So go ahead and go into schoolwork, and you can complete your tasks in your ELA tile.